Well, hello, hello, hello. I pushed record.
All right. I push record as well.
Let me. Yours is recording too, right?
Uh, I need permission.
Okay. I gotta figure out how to just give you permission automatically, but now it should be.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
All set. Hey,
Happy
Anna.
Monday.
Happy Monday. And welcome for anyone who is watching to another episode, another Monday episode.
hmm Of energy ninjas.
Energy Ninjas.
I've had people ask me, what is this energy ninjas? What is it all about? And the best way I can describe it is because right now it's just you and I, Rachel, that we talk, right? And my goal for Energy Ninja podcast is conversations with all IPAC graduates
Mm.
because I mean, not necessarily all of them because there's a lot of them, but those that are in my circle or coming to my circle because each and every one of us is different. And what we learned at IPAC in terms of energy and the seven energy levels has changed my life dramatically and everyone's life who has come even in contact with me or with you, Rachel. I've heard that as well. And actually, with every IPA graduate coach, and especially those that have taken on working with a coach, whether it's one on one or through the law of being or there's other courses that Bruce has created as well. I remember seeing them a while ago because it was something with like spirituality or meditation and a bunch of different courses he had created.
Okay, interesting.
I don't know how I saw that, but I remember there was a bunch of different ones because one of my classmates, she took, I think it's called a mindfulness
Okay.
course. She took a mindfulness course when I took the law of being, and and they are different.
Yeah. So the mindfulness course was with Bruce or one of his creations?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I'm like, I want to find all the other courses that we have access to because it's not, I don't think it's just the law of being.
Yeah. Oh, cool. All right. I want to check that out.
hmm But I, I love Mondays. Like your Monday, this Monday is going to be yours and mine. I'm not going to put anybody else in here. It's
Yeah.
separate times, different times, but going into the Energy Ninja podcast because we are energy ninjas, right? IPAC graduates, I see all of them as energy ninjas because we can sense energy shifts like that. We
Yep.
can see energy shifts. We can help people to recognize their own energy shifts. And within the energy, there's also choice created.
hmm
I mean, like, there's a lot to it. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on this topic.
Mm. Eh, I mean, let's see. It's I have a lot of thoughts because it's been 8 years since I was first introduced to energy leadership. So I think my favorite thing about it is that it gives me a knowledge base to unite what I've always felt with the knowledge base. So, for example, having the knowledge that level 6 energy, just using an example for now, but having the knowledge that level 6 energy, the core feeling is joy, and the result of joy is wisdom. That, even in my darkest times, has given me permission to make time on a daily basis to experience joy because I knew that wisdom would help me out of the dark time. So it really provides that union of science, because it's based on quantum physics, with what I feel on an emotional and spiritual level, and helps me to organize my mind. And it's like kind of like boot camp for the mind. And it's helped me to see language completely differently. So now when I hear someone's story, I can hear if it's at victim, conflict, responsibility, concern. I can hear all of the different levels that they're speaking. So, as someone who loves language, it's just given me, again, this knowledge base to weave together language that results in higher energy and higher frequencies, and try to mitigate the language that I use that results in catabolic or restricting, harmful or injurious energies. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I will also agree on that. Um, I have learned to, the way I would describe it is that some of this language that I hear with my clients that they're using, um, and especially in day-to-day life as well, when I hear certain words, certain phrases being used, and we're not taught in school what phrases and words to hear, like to pay attention to. That's not what we're taught. We're taught to understand energy and what each energy level actually means. So that means that whenever we take a client on, we're not teaching you the language, we're teaching you to understand how that level of energy is showing up. And you too, as the client, is able to actually hear that language yourself and pick up on that, really just bringing awareness to it. And when I hear this language, it sticks up like a sore thumb. And it's not something that I can no longer ignore because I hear it. But of course, in certain situations, in certain conversations, especially when the client is going on and on and on and telling me this whole story, that can be summed up in one energy level. And once they understand that energy level, it allows us to have a different kind of a conversation that takes us away from the story, and we don't focus on the story, because the stories themselves, I mean, they're great. We all love stories. I love stories. But when we stay in the story, we continue to stay stuck because we are listening to the story and not hearing what the story is actually, or the lesson that the story is holding to us.
That's it.
Right? Those words, that those sentences, those phrases, and especially when our ears are in tune to the energy, when we hear a certain phrase that is, the best way I could describe it is that there is a little bit of a difference when somebody is trying to be happy by saying what they're saying, and is happy when they're saying what they're saying.
Yeah.
We can see that difference, and they too can, but they're not consciously aware of it. But by us pointing that out, with permission, of course, right? We don't sit here and say, oh, this and this and this and that, because it doesn't feel good. But with permission, and with each client is a little bit different, we help the client to just become aware of what they have just said. And once
Yeah.
they're aware, it's like, oh my God, I realized that. I get it. It makes sense. And now I recognize that I have a choice,
Yes.
right? And our goal is not to continue to work with our clients their whole entire life. Our goal is to not get them out of our life, but get them out to be on their own and to manage their life confidently on their own, because they're managing their life on their own now. But once the confidence and awareness is there as well, that's when they go on their own. And is everything fixed and solved? No, but they're able to do all of these things on their own. And that, to me, That's energy coaching,
Yeah.
whole energy, right? Where we have what we use what we have at our disposal by bringing awareness
Hmm.
to everything around.
Yeah. I just love how unique the client and coach relationship is, because the iPad coaches, at least I know, I can't speak for all coaches, but we are trained in trusting that our clients have the answers. So it's so beautiful to be able to hold up that mirror. Like when as you were saying, when a client is really deep in their story and they're going on and on about how either they've been victimized or how someone else is to blame for the situation, whatever it is that's keeping them stuck, we hear it pretty immediately. We hear the point of the story. We see through it to the block, and we'll hold that space for it to be released. Often, if we're holding on to something, we need to be witnessed. So it's such an honor, really, to be able to witness our clients in the struggle without judgment, without attachment, just serve as a witness. And then that alone often is enough to together move forward. And sometimes it's as simple as reflecting back what we heard in a concise way that makes it clear to our client what we're seeing in a really gentle way. And then we hold up that mirror to our clients, and we're essentially saying, what do you see, or what are you hearing, so they have a chance to evaluate themselves. And I love that you brought up the goal of the coach, that it's not to keep a client forever. It's a very different energy than I felt when I was working with a therapist. I felt like she felt very attached to my story and like I needed her. And the coach knows the clients don't need us. We're just, they want us, they choose us, but they don't need us. We're just there to hold up the mirror. So when it gets to that point where our clients choose to terminate working with us, it's usually because they have this cadence in their own head. I know I can speak from my own experience with my first coach. When I was confident that I could stop my own story in my head, I was hearing her voice. I was hearing her say, "Let me just ask you," or, "Well, what is the intention behind that? Where is that coming from?" I could hear her cadence of questioning, of empowering questioning, like, where is that coming from? Where is that thought coming from? And so what I realized was that I had these tools going through. I worked with my coach for over a year. I just wanted to keep working with her. And even though I kind of had her rhythm and cadence of questioning down within about 3 months, it takes about 3 months usually. And I kept working with her just because I loved that process so much, and nobody else in my life was really holding the space for my agenda to be heard.
Yeah.
So, um, and when I did terminate working with her, what was so amazing was that I had this whole tool set, so that each cycle that I would revisit in my growth, every cycle of growth has its joys on one end of the extreme, and then its sorrow on the other. And each cycle goes deeper, carves deeper into the sorrow, but then we experience greater joy. And so, what I loved about having had the experience of working with a coach is that anytime I went deeper into the sorrow, I had all these tools. I knew exactly what the blocks were. I knew what was coming up to try to block me again, or cripple me, or paralyze me again. And that's so some of the there was a lot that I probably could have talked about with my coach, and I didn't, because I wasn't ready to face like certain trauma that I wasn't ready to face, certain programming that I wasn't willing to see yet. And that work with my coach gave me all these tools. So then when it was time to take a cold, hard look and excavate those shadows, I had these tools and this knowledge base to do it. And it felt so safe to do it on my own, kind of in my own excavation in that privacy that I cultivated for myself.
Mhm.
So it doesn't have to be like, if anyone is dealing with something, um, or has something deep down that they're not ready to look at with another human being, it's fine, because these tools help to look at it and reflect within.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. All of that, what you said, um, for in my mind, I had a question that I was going to ask, and that basically answered my question. So the question that I had is a question that I get asked quite a bit from potential clients or prospects. How long do I need to spend time with a coach in order to get the results that I want? Okay, and the response, there is no straightforward response, because you, in your example, you work with a coach for a year, just over a year, but you were able to go at it alone at 3 months, because you got the rhythm, right, of how you would go about it. Now, what was the benefit to you to continue to go past the 3 months? From what you said, is it allowed you to, you weren't able to find that kind of a relationship anywhere else, where nobody listened to you, nobody heard your agenda, nobody really cared, because they had their own, and they would put their own agenda on you. And with the coach was 100% focused on you in each and every session that you had. So to answer that question, kind of, you answered a lot of that question, like how long do I need to invest time wise and money wise as well, right? Because 3 months is one package, and then, I mean, some people have just the 3 months package, depending on what coach you want to work with when it comes to your growth, because there's so many coaches out there, IPEC graduates and not IPEC graduates. There's many different accredited schools as well. So we're not here to say that IPEC is the best, but yet we believe it is the best. Right? So yes. So here, I guess, to answer that question for those people that are asking the question, is there is no straightforward answer, because you get to decide. I only say yes to those that want to start with 3 months. That's the minimum, because it takes 3 months to understand, to hear, to notice, start noticing the patterns. That awareness that we're talking about in the beginning, it takes about 3 months to start becoming aware, right? But depending on the goals that you set up in the beginning, that is what's going to help you to determine how much you want to continue working, because you can do the 3 months and then continue the 3 months at 3 months. Or some people, it's very, very rare, but some people do decide to, let's do a year, and they pay for the whole entire year, and they start running. Because when you make such a commitment of a year, it's a big commitment, time wise and finance wise and growth wise, because after the first session, guaranteed, you're gonna know that, especially with an iPad coach, you're gonna know and feel, oh my God, this is just the first session and I've already grown so much. I can't, like, you probably will have a little bit of a challenging time imagining what the growth will be in a year.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to really conceptualize how much growth occurs. Like, I remember being so amazed at my expanding awareness. and my ability to change my behavioral patterns that weren't serving me. And then I was watching the ripple effect out in the world that that was having on my relationships, my energy at work, and setting boundaries, being able to set boundaries. And I said to my coach once, I was like, can you imagine the ripple effect that your work with me is having on the world? And I forget what she said. She brought up something about Oprah, like something about the Oprah effect or something. And but that's something that I think about a lot. Like, just so grateful. I think about it and I'm just so grateful that I made that choice, that initial choice to start working with a coach. And as silly as my I thought, as silly as I thought my what I the challenge I was working through at the time was, like my challenge at the time was that I could not stop communicating with my ex. I was still so concerned for him. And my coach of obviously did not see that as too silly. She validated that as a challenging experience. And so I'm so glad, so grateful I listened to myself and was like, you know what, I just need to admit it. I need help with this. And and it's not too silly, it's not stupid. And just that alone, working through that problem alone, expanded into just so many other areas of my life. And I had no idea. I had no idea that's where it would be going. And I'm just so grateful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 8 years later, I could have never imagined that I'd be sitting here, a soulpreneur, living, living the essence of who I am, being who I am, and building a business born, a vocation born from my authentic spirit. Like, that is the result, long term result. It's just,
Okay.
And it is a pretty small sparrow.
Okay. Thank you. He just ate all the banana bread I made.
growing young man.
I know he. Some days he wants to eat a lot, and some days he does not want to eat anything at all. And I mean, we as parents just need to listen to them and to their bodies and not force them to eat. Um, yeah, so I've been learning quite a bit on how to parent. And I mean, what you've just said, and him coming in here and me talking about parenting. The other question I get quite often is, what how do you pick a life coach, and how do you know? And the biggest one is, I don't have anything to work on. How do we know what I need to when I need to work on? Again, right? Need to, that is a really, really, really loud trigger. But it takes time to help the client to hear their own language and what it means to them, and decipher it and understand it, and slowly change it to the one that they prefer, that is going to help them to create the life that they actually want. So in terms of topics, I mean, it's unlimited. It really is unlimited. And we as IPEC core energy graduate coaches are able to help our clients with everything and anything, really. But we do typically have our own niches. And I mean, for for me, I've worked with, and again, thank you for saying that there is what you were working on with your coach, that she heard it and took it in as something that was very important and very valuable to you and to her, and that it was not silly at all. And that ripple effect of that goal that you had, what you guys were working on, went on to every area of your life. One of the things that one of the clients that I worked with that she wanted to work on with. One of the goals, because there was a couple of goals, right? 3 goals typically. Um, and one of them was to potty train her son.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And when she mentioned that, she tried to take that back, as in, no, it's not important enough. Okay, well, let's see, is it important? And I started asking questions, probing questions to see if it was important. And in the end, it was very important because it was affecting her energy and it was stressful and it was affecting her sleep. And I mean, it's just potty training, as some people would say. I remember when people would say it to me, it's like, it's just potty training. No, it's not just potty training. There's a lot to it, right? And within a month, not even within like weeks, um, her son started going to the potty and asking, and then fairly quickly there was no accidents, no incidents. Now, am I an expert in potty training? No, but she had all the tools that she needed. Some
Mhm.
people just need a little bit of encouragement to do a little bit of research and find what works for them, because there's so many different options of how you can potty train.
Right.
So that, like, the point of me mentioning is that there is no such thing as too small of a topic or too big of a topic, because this potty training, which was something that was seemingly very small and insignificant, was something that was very big and very significant, that not only strengthened her relationship with her son, but her relationship with her partner, her relationship with herself, and it affected, like, the ripple effects of just the potty training itself were seen everywhere else.
Mhm. I mean, I could imagine that even grounds her in her own confidence. Like, I love how you said, "Am I an expert in potty training?" No, no, you're not. But you are the person who knows that your client is an expert in being the mom to her son, and that's all you need. So you continuously holding that light up for her and that mirror up. She's the expert, helped her to dig within and create whatever kind of strategies or whatever she needed to do to help her son learn how to use the potty when appropriate.
Yeah. And I mean, I get thank yous all the time, but I always say, I appreciate the thank you, but I like, I didn't do
Yep.
anything, right? And this is where for us coaches as well, it's difficult to put a price on what we do because we feel like we don't do anything, but our clients tell us otherwise, that, like, you ask a question and, oh my God, my mind, like, that one question just blew my mind. And all of a sudden I'm able to see thousands of choices. Like, I got goosebumps because one of the ladies that I just had a bartering just one bartering coach session with her, and which was 45 minutes. And within that one session, she had so many options available to her. And I mean, there was a lot of story, a lot of going through, and I could write a book on everything, and I could hear everything that she was saying to me. I heard it coming back to just one specific thing. And quite often, what I've noticed, and this is, to me, it's also confirmation that what I'm creating um, is so needed. And quite often, what happens is that there is awareness that a person is not fully does not fully embody yet, and then awareness in different areas of our life, right? So, anyways, back to, like, I would ask a question and she's like, "Oh my God, that was such a good question," and I this and this and this and that, and I could see it went from the catabolic anabolic energy. I could see level 1 conversation going to level 5 and level 6, and I'm just like, oh my God. And then she took action and did something that she resisted ever since she started her journey of becoming a coach, which was social media. It was not one of her things, but she went out and she put herself out there on her own after just 45-minute conversation, and she became because she saw her worth,
Mm.
recognized her worth. The conversation went from I have nothing to offer, I have nothing to say, and I started questioning that. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of things available of what she has to offer and what she has to say. Um, which, like, I jumped from catabolic, kind of like closed like this, to open like this. And this is Annabelle. Oh my God, yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Right. Um, so the other question is like, how long does it take to get the results?
Mhm.
Nobody really has an answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, a lot of people don't even know what results they want when they first begin.
Yes, that's a really good response, Rachel.
Yeah, like sometimes I'll be working with someone who thinks that they want results around work and their business, their company, their team in their company. And then the path we take over the next 3 months is actually more geared toward inner child healing and family karma healing, and the patterns within the family. And that does result in some healing in the workplace as well. But we really didn't spend, early on in working together, those early questions of why is this important to you, and the values start coming out, like respect and autonomy, and typically those values that drive us are are coming from deeper places than our current situation. So sometimes people we don't, it just goes to show we don't have to know. We could start working with a coach today without any idea of what we want to work on and just start talking, and magic will occur.
Yeah, actually, that's how I started a couple of my with my clients, where they had no idea, and then started talking, and a lot of things started to come out, a lot of a lot of goals, a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, a lot of things that they wanted to have and create and experience. Because a lot, one thing I've also recognized is that everything that we want to have in our life comes down to an experience. It's
Mm.
not the thing itself, it's the experience, it's the feeling and the emotion that we get to have because of this one thing. So it comes back to this phrase, I like to refer to it as a human condition, where I'll be happy when
Yep.
syndrome, human condition, where I'll be happy when I have this job. When they have that job, they're not happy. And then I'll be happy when I have this house. They have this house, they're not happy. I'll be happy when continues with everything. And one of the things that I do here, and I was there myself as well, I'll be happy when I look a certain way because of this and this and that, because there's just always like a story attached to it.
Yeah.
But it comes down to a feeling, an emotion, and an experience that we want to have. And we think, based on what we've been exposed to, that we're going to be able to have this feeling and emotion when we have this in our life, when we have this in our life. And I mean, we're surrounded by all these things. Social media is a perfect example. You see a beautiful car, or you see a woman dressed in a beautiful dress. Ooh, I want to feel like she's feeling. Here's the part. If you take a moment and pause and look at that picture, guaranteed you might start to have, like, use your intuition of what you're seeing from that picture. Because when I look at these pictures of these beautiful women with drawn art on their face or a beautiful dress, I see what's behind that. I see guilt, shame, disappointment, anger, anxiety, fear, masked by a beautiful appearance of a snapshot in the moment, right? So what we see on social media, we think, ooh, she's happy because she looks a certain way. So this is what happiness looks like. This is what joy looks like. Where that is not the reality. We think like we see this image and this person is a superwoman, superman, that they have no other like negative, bad feelings and emotions and experiences, that their life is perfect. But that's not the reality. So images are great for us to visualize and create the life that we want, but not attaching a specific object to the experience and feeling and emotion that we want to have. Yes, it does help us to create that feeling and emotion in the now for what we want to have in the future. But if we continue to live our life with the I'll be happy when I look that way, like this woman did with that dress and the beautiful makeup that she had on her face, I'll be happy when I look like that. When you get there, that I mean, that's not really the reality, just a snapshot in the moment, right? And then we continue to chase this dream of acquiring things. This is the world that we really are living in as well. Um, we've been trained in a way to believe that we need to have things to make us feel a certain way. Whereas if we pay attention to the people in the world that have very little things, they are actually feeling and experiencing the things that we want, that we are not fully able to because we have too much stuff to worry about in our life that distracts us from what we actually want.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coaches are such great mirrors for when we are caught up in destination addiction,
Yeah.
because we ask, well, how does that make you feel? Or why is that important to you? Or how do you want to feel? Um, I was working with a client once who was offered a position. He has a unique um, career in that he can be independent or he can work on a team, and this is in commercial real estate. And he was describing to me what went on in a meeting and the way he was treated in the meeting. And I said, I sort of clarified what I heard, more or less. It sounds like the people in the meeting treated him with some disrespect. Um, and that was true. He confirmed that's what he was getting at. And then I just simply asked, well, how does that make you feel? And he was stunned. He couldn't think of an emotion. And he said, nobody's ever asked me that before. And that's probably the most difficult area when working with a client. It's really getting to the root of those feelings. And I actually have sent clients the wheel of emotion a number of times because they've struggled to identify a feeling. And this is important because this goes back to what we were saying earlier about uniting knowledge with feeling. When we can identify how our thoughts are making us feel or how situations are making us feel, then we can choose. Then we can see really how it shows up in our lives. So if, let's say, someone disrespects us, for example, and we might feel helpless, or um yeah,
Shame. I would feel shame and guilt.
yeah, just really undervalued and almost like,
Unloved.
yeah,
Yeah. Unaccepted, unloved.
yeah, just a clear separation of self there. Versus when someone treats us with great respect and admiration and curiosity, that all feels so loving. So even just being able to connect, oh, this makes me feel this way, that's uniting knowledge with feeling, and then gives us the wisdom to navigate. We could set boundaries. There's so many options from that point. But the thing is, for so many of us, no one's really asked how we feel. We've either had signals of how to feel, like, for example, I remember clearly getting my law degree and not and feeling pretty indifferent. But everybody around me was celebrating that I had this law degree now. And it seemed like this, for my family, it seemed like this giant accomplishment. And I knew I thought I should be happy. I thought I should feel what their reactions were telling me to feel, and I just didn't. And I realized no one actually asked me how I felt about it. And I think that's so common. And that's why I love coaches. That's what we are trained in. We are trained in asking the questions that might make other people uncomfortable. And it's because we truly are curious. We truly want to know you on a soul level. We want to know all your feelings, and we want to know what makes you feel that way.
And so that way you can, not just for our knowledge as well, but which it allows the, okay, Ethan, sweetie, please don't climb. It allows it allows the client to raise their awareness and see how awareness of what's happening in their life and how that feeling and emotion is affecting them, whether they want it or not, and it creates that choice. Ethan, can you please? I'm almost done here.
Your call?
Yes, I'm almost done with call. 12 more minutes because Rachel has a call at 12 and you guys are going on your lunch, which is perfect. So I got to feed them as well. You can leave the door a little bit open because it's getting a little too hot in here. Yeah, now I lost my train of thought. That's the other question I get quite often. It's like, oh my God, how can you stay calm and then get back on track of what you were talking about when your kids are there? Because, and I mean, I've also recognized, because this is just saying it for me, I recognize that it's a choice. It's a choice to remember what I was talking about and get back on track. It's a choice to get upset, which creates catabolic energy, which shuts off a lot in here as well. And it's a choice to also not remember, which that used to be me.
And it's cool. Like, if you don't remember, go with the flow.
It wasn't meant to be that. I mean, nothing else needed to be said. I'm also helping my husband to recognize his intuition. And in terms of like when he's talking and communicating with someone. So I'll give you an example of with me, and the same thing happened with him, and I helped him to kind of remember when this happened with us. So him and I, we were talking, he started doing meditation, and he shared with me an experience that he had with meditation, which he went into that state where you're not awake and you're not asleep, and he just saw alternating colors of blue and purple. And he's like, I don't know what that means. Like, he goes, like, it felt good. And then he was out of it and he wasn't able to get back in there. Right. And I'm like, that sounds like chakras.
Yeah.
Right. And I started questioning him a little bit, right, probing, coaching, and his throat chakra, he doesn't express. And it's very common, feelings and emotions, right? Don't express them, hold them in. And of course, that will get blocked. So in that conversation, I mean, I've been in this world, so to speak, for a couple of years now. Okay. So I can tell him a lot of things, a lot of stories. And I found myself, of course, getting excited, and I would start to share, and then I would feel like my words are kind of like mush. They're not really making sense. And I feel a tiny bit of like a flicker of anxiety coming in. And I recognize, I'm like, that is not me. That's him telling me energetically that he has had enough information. Do not overload my system. It's too much, right? So I recognize that, and I stopped. I'm like, I feel like this is already enough information for you. And he confirmed it for me. He's like, yes, that's a lot. He goes, I'd love to talk about it, but right now it's already, that's enough for me, right? So I stopped. And then when he comes back and we have another conversation, then at that point I will use my intuition and say whatever I feel like is needed to be said in that moment. And again, listen to when it's enough, because we get that feeling where it's like it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer, like, there's a wall that goes up and they can no longer take anything else in anymore. And when he had similar experience at work, when he's having a conversation with someone and trying to explain something to someone, he feels like there's like a mush of words, nothing is coming through, and I'm reminding him of that. So he's like, yeah, that, yeah, like sometimes the eyes get glossy and the person doesn't anymore, right? But what I'm saying with that is that we all have access to intuition, and for most of us, it comes in the form of feeling an emotion that we have not been trained to recognize,
Yeah.
because we grew up in the world that had limitations, that had um, a box. Like we grew up in a box. And when we try to come out of the box, it's challenging because for many reasons, but one of the reasons that is challenging for us to come out of this box is because this is when, how do I put it? When we're in this box, we are surrounded by people who understand us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We're speaking a certain language, we're living a certain way, we're comfortable. When we step out of the box, we're going to be exposed to a different world and different people, and whatever was in that box no longer is no longer comfortable, and which means that pretty much everything starts to shift in our life, where we change we see the world a different way. We wake up in a different world. We start to change our friends as well, because the conversations that we're having no longer are relatable to the people that we were with in this box. And
That's
like,
I just want to say that's such a beautiful way to put it. No longer relatable. That's I love that. That's objective. It's not any critique of the former box, no judgment of the former box. It's just simply no longer relatable. So thank you for sharing that just like that. I think that could be so helpful because I know so many, like what you're describing is essentially the hero's journey. Leaving the box, the separation, initiation, return, so many. Actually, this came up. This is so beautiful. This came up with someone recently. She's afraid to leave one box because she implications of that means she'll never be able to return to that box. Which you and I hear the blocks around that, and we know what to work on. We hear the limiting beliefs um, and it may be some interpretation blocks that are holding her back. So we would know exactly which questions to ask. And what I think is so beautiful about that is I think that's a common fear because that's what we fear when we embark on the hero's journey. We experience a separation from that box. Then we go on an initiation where we learn, usually in the hero's journey, it's described as a mentor brings you over the threshold. So, like Luke Skywalker meeting Obi-Wan Kenobi in Star Wars, and then he left his home, and when he returned he was a completely different person. He returned a Jedi. And so that's what we're doing, is we are leaving these boxes to go on these mysterious journeys to return our masters, Jedi masters of ourselves, and we can help the old box that way, just leading by example. And then something else you were saying just brought to mind, like when you brought up intuition, it brought to mind just why we've all been so deprived of that connection to our intuition. And so much is from the beginning of idol worship, when we were first told to worship something outside of ourselves. And that's how the status quo perpetuates. It perpetuates using control. The status quo is all about control, controlling our minds, keeping our minds limited so we don't think that we are blind to the greatness within, or maybe not necessarily blind to it, but fearing it. And it's intuition requires surrender. We've got to surrender to the unknown and to faith. And that's really scary because for the past 5,000 years, we have not been encouraged to surrender or encouraged to have faith in ourselves. We've been fed the status quo routine of control so that something outside of us has control over us. Something outside of us determines how much we get paid, how much we're worth. So it's a journey. It truly is a journey, and it's individual. And it just that moment of surrender, taking that leap outside of the box into the unknown. Everyone does in their own time.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the fear of unknown. And I heard questioning status quo. It really, like, that's what I hear, where you are not looking for external validation. You are looking for internal validation, which you already have. And we have been raised to seek external validation, which also falls under the status quo for me, where we just didn't question it. We believed it to be truth, right? We believed that to be the truth our whole entire life until one day, and I mean, I've always questioned, but in the end, I was silenced because you're weird, you're odd, why are you questioning these things? And I lived my life a certain way. And I didn't speak it out loud because people wouldn't understand. Why do you forgive people so quickly? How can you not hold on to grudges? How those ones were asked to me all the time, like, how can you do that? And intuitively, I knew that it wasn't about me. So why would I attach myself to somebody else's story and experience when it wasn't about me? And what IPEC allowed me to experience is I experienced validation for my life leading up until that point, until IPEC. Okay, Ethan. For now, yes, I will talk to you guys later. Here, I fixed it. So I experienced validation having going through IPEC of, I don't know, of me, of life, of intuitively understanding what life is about and what it isn't about. And that when we look for external validation in terms of things, I'll be happy when. That's external validation as well. I'll be happy when, I don't know, when I get an award for my job. This is when I worked at the bank. I'll cover them at the bank so I don't get in trouble, just in case. But when I received, I don't know if you can actually even see it. It's kind of like award.
Excellence.
Yeah, it's Award of Excellence 2014. So when I received this award, I thought it would make me happy. And I've had this locked up since 2014. And now that I have it, I'm like, what is this paperweight for? I don't need this paperweight. And I have it in here because I keep trying to put it away. My kids keep bringing it in here, right? And this was, I'll be happy when I achieve this, especially when we're all raised career driven, right? We're workaholic is another way to describe it. We're raised to believe that when we get into this field, that there's certain steps, certain ladders that need to move up and do and have and achieve. And when people go these steps, these ladders, what quite often they recognize is that when they get to that level, what they're really looking for is the sense of fulfillment and purpose. And it's very rarely there when they get to that external validation point in their life, that I will feel like I I have, I'm there. I have it, and I am it when I get there. And none of that really comes with them that they want, because what they're doing is they're really living a life that somebody else had whispered into their ears, whispered into their ears through images as well, whether it's on social media, whether it is in the movies, whether it is parents, friends whispering when you were talking about your law degree. That didn't sound like it was your journey. It sounded like it was somebody else's journey that you were living. And once you reach that external validation point where you're supposed to feel validated, where I'm supposed to feel a certain way, and what the hell, it's not happening. And people are telling me how awesome I am. And it's like,
Why don't I feel awesome? And they were really subtle comments. It's amazing how vulnerable our psyches are and our mental feedback loops are. Because when I graduated from college, I wanted to be an investigative journalist or a music journalist. Either one, I would have, that's what I wanted to do. And these subtle comments like, well, there's not a lot of money in that. Good luck being a starving artist. And then so those types of comments right out the gate made me I started feeling anxious and lost, because then the mind's, my perception shifted from I can do whatever I want, I can be whatever I want when I grow up, to, oh shit, I need to make money. And I need to make money fast. I need to get a place to live. I need health insurance and all these, and a 401k. That's the new goal. This well-paying job and benefits. So fuck all of those uh mantras the whole time we were growing up that were saying I can be whatever I want. Oh, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. Yeah, that didn't seem to come through once I actually graduated college and entered the workforce. So that shift then led to keeping my ears open for, okay, what would make me money. And that's when the subtle comments about, oh, well, you know what, you would make a great lawyer, you're always great at mediation. And um, someone else saying, you know, Rachel could make a lot of money as a lawyer. And I was like, fuck it, I guess I'll go to law school. And I knew the first semester, so I went at night and worked full time during the day. Another part of my conditioning was that was the way, because when we were little kids, my mom worked full time during the day and went to nursing school at night. So I was like, well, I want to be just like her. I want to exhibit that same work ethic. So going back to what you were saying about work ethic. So law school took me 4 years at night, and I knew after the very first semester, so halfway through, I knew it wasn't the career for me. But I stuck it out because I committed to it, and I thought that I thought that if had I given up after that first semester, that's what it would have been, giving up. I don't regret sticking it out. I'm so grateful for the education. Some of the professors that I had were amazing, and I still revisit some of my old papers to this day, because I did happen to choose topics that were near and dear to my soul. But I didn't need to go about a law school route to do it, because I'm revisiting all those topics now. So it's just, yeah, our psyches are so vulnerable to the subtle comments that, I thought the way I interpret it or absorb these energies, these external energies, were, well, if I become a writer, then my family's going to worry about me financially. I don't want them to worry about me. If I become a lawyer, they'll feel better. They'll feel proud of me. I want them to be proud of me, and they'll feel secure, that their daughter is financially secure. And that really drove my unconscious decision making. I didn't have anybody to help me sort through what was mine and what was external.
Mhm. And the question in my mind is, how does a coach, I'm putting a code into the Xbox in case somebody's wondering, and I have to point it closer to the TV because it's upstairs. So to lean forward, because otherwise it's too far, it won't work. Um, so how does a coach fall under this umbrella of trying to think of a question, but I guess that's a question itself. How does a coach fall under this umbrella um, of this journey,
Mhm.
like the hero's journey versus the external validation journey of career-driven and financial goal?
Mm. Like, what role does the coach play in that journey for someone else?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I see the coach as the permission, like the symbol of permission to cross the threshold into the unknown, because that's really what we're doing. We're giving our clients permission to do what they truly want to do.
Yes, and help them. I would just add and rudely interrupt.
And I was done.
Add that we don't hold an agenda. We, it's not that we don't care what you do, but we do care what your deepest desire is. And we help you to strip away of all the other people's expectations of you and help you to go after what it is that you really want in your life. Because not everyone wants to work 9 to 5. Some people do, and it's what they love. And then do that, right? We're here to help you uncover what you really want and go for it without having our own attachment to it like everybody else in your life does.
Yeah. And that could be a topic for a whole other day, the attachment that everybody else has. Because once we learn how to navigate that, really no one can tell us who we are, who we're not, or what we should be or what we shouldn't be. That is completely up to us. And once we can see through others' attachment, we can set a boundary and navigate along the journey.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is a perfect time to wrap it up because I know you got your call and it's already 8 minutes past 12, 9 minutes past 12, and then my kids are already on their break before I hop on my next call. So I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you, Rachel, for always showing up as your authentic self and sharing yourself wholeheartedly.
Well, thank you.
I love
Same to you.
Oh, thank you.
Monday calls.
Yes, I love them. And I hope that people that were curious about the benefits of coaching or how coaching actually works or what coaching is, and I mean, it's not really what coaching is and what isn't, but what, how, how would you benefit from working with a coach? That's one of the questions that I get quite often as well. And hopefully all of your questions or most of your questions were answered because I know there wasn't too many questions that we answered, but anybody else has questions, feel free to put them down below or message us directly and we will do more of these videos and answer these questions for everyone and help everyone to really understand the benefits of coaching and what it adds to anyone's life, really. Even if you're, as I like to refer to, as a big kahuna, when you're like the CEO of a company, that there's still a lot of work that those people want to do. Actually, they typically want to do a lot more work than somebody else that is maybe just a stay-at-home mom, right? And I've worked, I don't want to say, I haven't worked with the CEOs yet. That's a ladder that I myself want to climb, but at the same time, I don't know if I want to climb that ladder because I'm moving a little bit at a time to see what I like and what I don't like, following my intuition and my internal compass and not everybody else's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mamas are the CEOs of the home.
There you see, I do work with, thank you, Rachel. I do work with the CEOs because CEO of the house.
Yeah, the mamas are the big kahunas of the household.
Yes, so I work with the best CEOs in this world that are creating life as we speak and building. I was gonna say soldiers, but they're not soldiers. They're just soldiers of themselves, right? Soldier.
Soldiers. I love that.
Term like soul.
Soldiers. I love it.
So thank you, Rachel, and thank you everyone for watching or listening, depending on where you're going to be hearing this conversation, and connect with us. Follow, watch us, connect with us on whatever platforms that I have incorporated in the description down below, and looking forward to hearing more questions from all of you guys.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yana.
Thank you, Rachel, and until next week.
Until next week.
Bye.